Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're going to be doing a Volcanic deck profiles. This deck is a really fun, insane deck that's actually kind of a cool rogue deck to be able to summon out some really amazing fire boss monsters. And don't forget to remember our legend in the community, Pain96. I hope he does comment down below on this one because this one is for him, and I hope that he really enjoys this one. This is a really insane deck to play around with, and it can just board wipe your opponent over and over and over again, and inflict 1,500 points of damage every time that your opponent does with Volcanic Scatter Shot. So, without further ado, guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Definitely hit that bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad. And don't forget to check out the Patreon down in the description below because we got some awesome rewards you guys, like getting your name description for every single video, getting a signed card sent in the mail, or even getting a requested deck profile every single month that you are a patron along with test hand. So, without further ado, Pain, this one's for you, and let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Volcanic Rocket, and yes, I pulled out the gold rares just for this profile for you guys. What this card does is when it's summoned, you get to add a Blaze Accelerator card from your deck or your graveyard to your hand, which is always going to be your copy of Blaze Accelerator Reload. We then play a single copy of Volcanic Slicer. Volcanic Slicer is a Ties of the Brethren target, because this is a primarily Ties of the Brethren deck that actually can summon out a bunch of really cool cards. What this card does is once per turn, you can inflict 500 points of damage to your opponent, and if you activate this effect, it can attack this turn. Not that big of a deal, but it's still really helpful to get it out on your side of the field. We then play 2 copies of Royal Firestorm Guard. Royal Firestorm Guard, when this card is normal summon, you get to target 4 Pyro monsters in your graveyard and shuffle all 4 of them into the deck, and then you get to draw 2 cards, which is super nice to be able to do with your Volcanic Scatter Shots, to be able to just recur them over and over again. 2 copies of Barrier Statue of Infernos. This card is actually an insane Ties of the Brethren target. I don't mind opening up this card. I don't mind getting it on my side of the field. It's just an overall really good card to normal summon to your side of the field to just lock your opponent into only being able to summon fire cards. And it's a really cool card that I've been playing this deck for a very long time, and I've never regret putting it in because Ties of the Brethren just brings this out so fast, especially being able to summon a copy of the Volcanic Rocket, Slicer, and this onto your side of the field is really good to be able to put it on your side of the field with a copy of Blaze Accelerator set, with being able to board wipe your opponent with your copy of Reload as well and Scatter Shot. We then play a single copy of Volcanic Counter. Volcanic Counter is pretty good in the deck too. If it's in your graveyard and you take battle damage, then you can, and there's a fire monster other than Volcanic Counter in the graveyard, you can inflict damage to your opponent equal to the amount of battle damage you took, which is pretty good just to be able to inflict the points back at your opponent. 3 copies of the single most important card in this deck, and that is 3 copies of Volcanic Scatter Shot. This card is insanely good and extremely important at playing in this deck. When this card is sent to the graveyard, you inflict 500 points of damage to your opponent, and if this card is sent to the graveyard for an effect of a Blaze Accelerator card, you can send 2 more copies of this card from your hand and or deck to the graveyard. And if you do, you destroy all monsters your opponents control, which is really good to be able to just pop all the cards that your opponent has that are monsters on their side of the field and inflict 1,500 points of damage to your opponent. You can do this multiple times, especially with your copies of Royal Firestorm Guard, being able to recur your copies of your Scatter Shot back into the deck. And with all the different cards in your deck, being able to recur this card is just an overall amazing card. So, we then play 3 copies of Volcanic Shell. This card's another one of those cards that you can recur over and over and over again. By paying 500 life points while this card's in your graveyard, you can add another copy of itself from your deck to your hand. So once you get this card in the graveyard, one time you can just continuously get more copies of this card. It's a really good card, and you want to keep at least 1 copy in the graveyard, because while it's in the graveyard, you get to pay 500 and then add another copy of itself. 1 copy of Volcanic Doomfire. Doomfire is a one-of that you need to play in this deck. What this card does is it cannot be normal summoned or set. You must send Tri-Blaze Accelerator you control to the graveyard, which Reload counts as Tri-Blaze Accelerator. And then during your opponent's battle phase, your opponent must attack this card with any attack position monster they control. And then when this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, you destroy all monsters your opponent controls, and then inflict 500 points of damage to your opponent for each monster destroyed by this card effect. This card is an insanely good one-of, and you need it as at least a one-of, and it's just amazing. We then play another copy of a one-of, which is a single copy of Uriah, Lord of Searing Flames. In the previous build I had of this deck, I played this at 3. I did bump it down to 1 because I feel like once you summon it one time in this particular deck, you're pretty much going to win. And I play a lot of draw power in this deck now to be able to dig through the deck to be able to grab what you particularly need. It's a lot more of a control-based deck, and it's a really good card to play because you get to send 3 continuous traps on your side of the field to the graveyard, and then you special summon this card from your hand. It gains 1,000 attack for each counter trap sent to the graveyard, and then once per turn, you can target a set card on your opponent's spells and trap cards, and then destroy that card, and then they can't activate cards in activation to this, so it's a speed spell for Night Beam, which is really good. But being able to summon this card as a 6, 7, 8,000 attack point monster, it's just really insane, and really easy to get it to big attack points. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom to round out the monster lineup. You need the 3 Ash just to be able to handle your opponent's field, from them sending cards from deck to graveyard or adding cards from deck to hand. It's a really good card to play as a 3-of and very important in this deck. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. And don't be fooled in this deck. You don't really need the boss monsters. This is the main card of the entire deck to be able to recur it and just board wipe your opponent. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Called by the Grave just to be able to stop our opponent's hand traps. This is really important, especially if our opponent tries to Ash Blossom our copy of Blaze Accelerated Reload, where we're trying, or Ash Blossoms our copy of our Scatter Shot, because then you can't board wipe your opponent. So this card's really good to be able to stop that. 1 copy of Double or Nothing, because it's easy to go for Utopia Double just to go in for 10,000. 3 copies of Magical Planter. You're playing like 9 traps that are continuous traps. So this card's really easy to just go off with, and a really amazing card to be able to send a continuous trap from your side of the field to the graveyard, and then you get to draw 2. And then 3 copies of Ties of the Brethren to round off the spells. Ties of the Brethren, you get to pay 2,000, target a level 4 lower monster you control, and then for the rest of the turn and card resolves, you can't special summon. And then also you get to special summon 2 monsters from your deck with the same type, attribute, and level as that monster, but with different names from each other. And if you do, you cannot conduct your battle phase the turn you activate this card. So you want to go first in this deck to be able to set your board up. If you open up Ties of the Brethren, press any of your Pyro level 4 monsters, you're totally fine, which you play 4 different ones. You play the Barrier Statue, you play your Royal Flamestorm Guards, you play Slicer, and you play Rocket, so you have plenty of cards in this deck to be able to draw out. You play like 8 different targets for this, and it's totally fine to be able to hit them, and it's really easy to actually resolve this card. So, that's it for the spells, guys. You don't play that many spells. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. Infinite Impermanence is very important in this deck because it helps out a lot to be able to just target a card your opponent controls and then negate the activation or negate that card's effect, which is pretty cool. It's kind of like a really OP effect veiler, and it's really good, especially if you get pushed going second. Then you can activate this card to be able to negate something. It's pretty good in this deck as a 3-of. I like it. You can change it out for any other hand trap if you don't want to play this. You can play 3 copies of Nibiru. You can play something else that you want. But overall, you just need another hand trap in this position. We then play a single copy of Imperial Order. Imperial Order is a 1-of in this deck. I don't feel like the 1-of is really good because it negates all spells and then once per turn during your standby phase, you have to pay 700 or this card is destroyed. Which is not that bad because you can always use your copy of you can just get rid of it later on, and it really hurts your opponent a lot more than it hurts us. We then play 2 copies of Summon Limit. Summon Limit is really good because it kind of locks your opponent into summoning only twice per turn, and we only summon like once or twice per turn anyways, so this card's really good to be able to just lock down fields. 2 copies or 3 copies of Blaze Accelerated Reload. Don't ever play 2 copies of this, but always play 3. What this card does is this card's always treated as Tri-Blaze Accelerator. And then while this card is in the Spell and Trap card zone, it's always treated as Tri-Blaze Accelerator. And then during your main phase, you can send a Volcanic card from your hand to the graveyard, and if you do, you draw a card. And you only select this card once per turn. And then during the main phase, you can banish this card from your grave and then send a Volcanic card from your deck to the graveyard, which can be Scatter Shot, which can then blow your opponent's entire field. We then play 3 copies of Crackdown. Crackdown is really good because it can take an opponent's monster they control, and then you take control of it, which is really good to be able to use your opponent's cards against them, especially for rank 4 plays or Xyz plays. It's just really good to be able to go after your opponent's cards, and then while you control that monster, it cannot attack or activate its effects, and then when that monster leaves the field, you destroy this card. So you can take control of the opponent's monster, and then you can, if you want to, use Magic Planner, send this to graveyard, draw 2 if you need to, or you can use the monster as a link material or an Xyz material. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So the extra deck, we're going to be playing a single copy of the Fire Charmer Ablaze. Fire Charmer Ablaze is good because it can revive Ash Blossoms and use them as link material. And it's just a really good card to be able to just target a fire monster in your opponent's graveyard, special summon it to your side of the field to zone this card points to. And then if this card is destroyed if this link summon card is destroyed by battle or by card effect, opponent's card effect, while in its owner's control, you can add a fire monster with 1500 or less defense from your deck to your hand, which can be a copy of Uriah because it has 0, which is really cool. It can also add your copy of any of your particular like volcanic monsters, because the majority of them, actually all of them, have less than 1500. So this card can search the entire deck, which is really good. We then play a single copy of Access Code because you play so many different link monsters in this deck, so you get multiple pops with this card. It helps OTK. Unicorn to be able to spin stuff, Phoenix to pop spells and traps, Cerberus to pop monsters, Linkuriboh because you can use Shell to summon Linkuriboh really easily and negate attacks, and a single copy of Relinquished Anima because you can just summon this card really easily by using a copy of the Shell. One copy of Utopia Double just to summon out Utopia to get it to 10,000. It's really easy to do this combo. All you have to do is have 2 level 4s on your side of the field, overlay into Utopia Double, detach a material, add double or nothing, overlay Utopia on top of it, goes to 5,000, attack your opponent, detach a material, negate the attack with Utopia's effect, drop double or nothing and let you attack again, boost him up to 10,000 because he's summoned at 5,000 when Utopia Double summons him, and then you OTK your opponent with a 10,000 attack point Utopia Double. Only downside is he can't attack directly. One copy of number 41, Baguska. Baguska just kind of helps you lock down the field just in case you need to. Because it's not that big of a deal for us to not attack, because you can use Scatter Shot and then finally turn this to attack position and go after your opponent. Tornado Dragon because it can pop spells or traps, and it's overall a really good rank 4. Evilsworn Exton Knight just to blow board because we don't do enough of that. Daigusto Emerald because it can shuffle all 3 of your Scatter Shots back into the deck. Abyss Dweller because it can lock down graveyards, and a single copy of number 60 because it can help you out a lot for doubling the attack of a monster, draw 2, discard 1, or even gives you the additional effect of special summoning a monster from your graveyard in defense position, which is pretty good. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. Payne, I hope you enjoyed this one. This is a really fun deck to play around with, and I hope that we get Volcanic support. I hope you comment down below and tell us exactly how many days it's been since Volcanic support has come around, because that's like your legendary thing that you do in the comments, and I'm really excited to actually do this one for you. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, guys. Give Payne some love down in the comments down below, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below as well, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.